My kindergarten teacher reached out 20 years later with an apology that shattered me. My kindergarten teacher reached out 20 years later with an apology that shattered me. This happened last month, and I'm still processing it. I'm 25 years old now, working as a graphic designer in Portland. Last Tuesday, I got a Facebook message from someone named Lorraine Whitfield. The name didn't ring a bell until I opened it. Hello, Jordan. You probably don't remember me, but I was your kindergarten teacher at Riverside Elementary in 2005. I know this is strange after so many years, but I need to apologize to you for something that's haunted me for 2 decades. Would you be willing to talk? I stared at that message for a long time. Kindergarten was 20 years ago. I barely remembered it, just vague impressions of circle time and building blocks. Why would my kindergarten teacher need to apologize? Curiosity 1. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop that Saturday. Lorraine was in her late 60s now, gray hair and kind eyes that looked tired. She stood when she saw me, her hands trembling slightly. Jordan, thank you for coming. You look so grown up. We sat down and she pulled out an old folder. Inside were children's drawings, progress reports, and photographs from her classroom. She found one and slid it across to me. It was a class photo. 20 small faces smiling at the camera. She pointed to one kid in the back corner, a tiny boy with messy brown hair, not smiling, looking down. That's you, she said softly. I looked closer. I barely recognized myself. Jordan, that year you were in my class, you were struggling. You were quiet, withdrawn, couldn't sit still. You'd have these meltdowns where you'd cry and couldn't explain why. I thought you were just a difficult child, a behavior problem. My chest tightened. I was young, only in my 3rd year of teaching. I didn't know what I was doing. Instead of trying to understand what was happening with you, I treated you like a disruption. I sent you to timeout constantly. I called your parents repeatedly to complain. I made you sit away from the other children during activities because you were too distracting. Memories started flooding back, sitting alone at a desk in the corner, feeling like I was bad, wrong, broken. I isolated you, she continued, her voice breaking. And I'm so sorry. 5 years later, I took a graduate course on childhood trauma and learning disabilities. I learned about ADHD, sensory processing issues, anxiety in young children, and I realized what I'd done to you. Tears were streaming down her face now. You weren't a bad kid, Jordan. You were a struggling kid who needed help, and I punished you for it instead. I spent 20 years wondering what happened to you, terrified that I damaged you permanently. When I saw your name online last month, I knew I had to reach out. I need you to know that how I treated you was wrong. You deserved better. I sat there stunned. Suddenly, so many things made sense. My anxiety around authority figures, my fear of being too much, the way I'd spent years thinking something was fundamentally wrong with me. I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 12, I said quietly. After years of struggling in school and my parents thinking I was lazy. Lorraine closed her eyes. Oh God. Jordan, I'm so sorry. We talked for 2 hours. She told me about the changes she'd made in her teaching after that course, how she'd learned to recognize neurodivergent children, trauma responses, different learning styles, how she'd spent the last 15 years advocating for better support systems in schools. I can't undo what I did to you, she said, but I've tried to make sure I never do it to another child. I just needed you to know that it wasn't your fault. You were never the problem. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear those words until she said them. We've met twice more since then. Yesterday, she gave me a letter she'd written years ago but never sent, apologizing and explaining everything she wished she'd understood when I was 5. I've been carrying this for you, she said, in case I ever found you. This morning, I reread that letter. For 20 years, I've carried the weight of being told I was difficult, disruptive, too much. A part of me always believed it was true. Now I know it wasn't. My therapist says this kind of closure is rare, that most people never get an apology for childhood wounds. But I did, and it's helping me rewrite the story I've been telling myself about who I am. I'm not too much. I never was. I was just a kid who needed understanding instead of punishment. And now, finally, I'm starting to believe that. Lorraine is retiring next year. She asked if I'd speak to her current class about embracing differences and learning in different ways. I said yes. Maybe we can't change the past, but we can make sure the future looks different. That's enough.